So I gotta ask, why leave it?
I leave. It could have just been the dynamics of where the places that I worked. My first company, we started getting hit a little bit harder post COVID around like just clients not really doing as big of projects. We're very tied to if we work hard, we expect to be rewarded for that in some way. And whether that's good or bad, that's the culture we were brought up in. Great skill set and a great background in other things. And it's just, I think I could be better utilized in another position. Being honest about my own mental health, it was not the greatest at certain times. And a lot of stressors were involved in that sort of lifestyle. I think it's important to advocate for yourself, just as you would expect someone to advocate for you.
Today on Science with Impact.
My name is Rakeem Marcelle. Let's see, past experience. Studied biology, human biology in undergrad at Brown University, where I also played football. And then I did three summer internships with Harbor Branch Oceanographic Institute and cancer biology, which sort of sparked my interest in wanting to be a cancer researcher or oncologist. And so from there, I did a master's degree in cancer biology at Georgetown University. After that, I worked for Georgetown for a few years in their transplant lab, and then shifted over to industry, and then eventually into consulting. I worked in consulting for 4 years, and now I've shifted and moved back into industry.
Why should our listeners, who are mainly researchers, scientists, and other science organizations who seek to broaden their societal impacts, listen to our conversation?
I feel like if you want to hear a great conversation across a bunch of different themes that are pulled in through the scientific lens, I think that you're going to enjoy the conversation that we've had here.
We started this conversation because we were at ACS Kids Zone and we wanted to talk more about your transition out of consulting. What kind of things did you use to consult on?
It was a lot of commercialization, I would say. So more like landscape, a lot of market landscaping, product launches. We did that as well. And then also a little bit of brand and marketing strategy was filtered in there. But then I switched it a lot more like brand and marketing strategy. They played across healthcare continuum. So a lot was our main bread and butter was probably these tool diagnostic providers. We also worked a little bit with pharma. So all across the board, doing a lot of different things there. Got me well-rounded, I think, into the business of what industry is doing and knowing how operations work, how sales leaders are working in terms of launch and getting things ready to go. And then also just how marketing operates in terms of we got any product that's about to come out, how do we best utilize what our customers think and turn that into our strategies or how we should be able to sell to them. So I enjoyed
It
it.
sounds incredible. It sounds really successful too with all those clients that you had. So I gotta ask, why leave it?
I leave. Yeah. It was, yeah. And it could have just been the dynamics of where the places that I worked. My first company, we started getting hit a little bit harder post COVID around like just clients not really doing as big of projects. So there was like certain revenue things and targets that they were trying to hit. And because of that, we faltered in sort of our projections, what we were expected, the metrics our overall team was supposed to hit. So they scaled back on the promotion cycles. And for me, I think, and I've told other managers and leaders, it's just like millennials, we're very tied to if we work hard, we expect to be rewarded for that in some way. And whether that's good or bad, that's the culture we were brought up in. I felt like I was putting in way too much time at my first firm to and be overlooked. I was just like, I think it's time to move over. So then I moved. It's more of a lateral jump. Still really enjoyed the work. And actually, I enjoyed the fact that I was learning again. Like my first role is just throw you into the fire, the deep end. You learn on your own. Linus was able to actually teach me how to get to the strategy and what frameworks you can use to pull that out and like use market research for those strategy building sessions. But then even there, I noticed quickly that the promotional cycle was just longer. And just where I was at, I needed to progress in my salary, then also just my title. So for those reasons, I felt like I needed to pivot side into industry. And also if I'm being self-reflective, like maybe I'm just not built for consulting. I can own that. I have a great skill set and a great background in other things. And it's just, I think I could be better utilized in another position. So there was that. I think towards the end of last year, I also noticed that one of my corporate superpowers or professional superpowers, sort of relationship building and networking. And I wasn't able to utilize that enough in consulting. So I wanted to find a role that allowed me to do more of that. And the account management role that I'm in, I should have opportunities to do that a lot more.
That makes a lot of sense. When we met, I definitely noticed you have a great way of relationship building and a great rapport building approach about you. I was like, cool. I've got 1,000 questions. I said, okay. Okay.
Oh, yeah, so it's stating that.
Okay, cool. You said one aspect of the switch between consulting into industry was that you felt like maybe you didn't have the build of a consultant. And I'm dying to know what separates the build of a consultant versus an industry professional versus maybe an academic.
I think in terms of consultant, it's a grinder lifestyle, I think,
Yeah.
for sure. You're expected to, as much as they want to talk about work-life balance, certain times there's going to be waves and dips and hurdles where you're going to be down in the trenches and working on a deck till midnight or later, trying to get something done before 9 a.m. meeting the next day. And there's also times where, I love the flexibility of being remote as a consultant. So then I can maybe go do something in the afternoon, but just knowing I would have to come back and do that work at some point. And even sometimes that led to weekend work. And just for me, I noticed the toll it was taking on myself. If I'm being honest about my own mental health, it was not the greatest at certain times. And a lot of stressors were involved in that sort of lifestyle. The intense nature of trying to meet deadlines can just take its toll after a couple of years.
So you're saying high risk, high time commitment, and low reward led you to feeling unhappy. That's
Yeah.
totally reasonable.
Yeah, and I think
Okay.
some people have high reward. I think there are certain people that are more built for that and they're good. And it was interesting at one of my firms. We had a major client and it very much seemed like if you were on that account in some way, those people were rewarded. Those people got the promotions
So there's favoritism too. Got it.
in a sense. And it can be luck whether or not you get onto that project or not, or maybe it's favoritism on this manager wants to work with that person a little bit as well. So there's that side of it. There's always a political game, I guess you can say, whether that's consulting or I think industry is probably the same way as well, depending on the size of your company.
And in navigating the more political aspects of industry, I imagine that your skill with relationship building comes in handy.
It does. Yeah. Me being able to connect very well with people very quickly. I love that about myself. I think it's a great thing. I really hope that it doesn't come across as being like fake or disingenuous. I'm being very genuine with my view. And I think that does come across. And I think that's why when you're playing that sort of game, you're able to build a relationship. Even if you're looking for a mentor, that mentor or that person that's going to bring you along or talk you up to the right people. It's actually a conversation I just had with one of my coworkers yesterday. She's telling me how like someone on our team, they have pretty good visibility into some of the upper level people. And it's good to just even don't forget to just mention to them, hey, if you don't mind, just like, you can talk me up in some way and just give me a couple compliments. I think it's important to advocate for yourself, just as you would expect someone to advocate for you. You have to speak up is what I'm learning and show your best self in the right way, I think. And that's the political part of it, is figuring how to do it in a genuine way that doesn't come across as being overly self-confident, maybe.
Got it. Like maybe overly performative or
Yep.
overly arrogant or
Yep.
Interesting. I feel like you just gave us like a kind of short course in relationship building, but is there anything that if you had to teach a course on it in a minute, what would you say has been some of the most powerful things that have worked for you?
It's finding a connection point. And it's like, for me, someone will say one thing and it will remind me of something either I've done or a friend has done, and just like pulling in those anecdotes of, oh, that's an easy way for me to relate to you and for you to then relate back to me. And I think that's ultimately what human connection is about, right? You're trying to relate to another person, and whether you're trying to get something out of them or not, I think it's good to be able to get to that level. And I think we need more of it sometimes within our world of just people just level setting more. It's like, how can we connect on just a more ground level than it is, especially in these professional environments where it may seem like someone's trying to get something out of someone else.
Yeah, like a podcast or something. No, I totally understand. It's one of those things where it's hard to name a non-selfish motivation for our connection as human beings, right? Because mine is usually embedded in a profound curiosity for why other people choose careers and what made an impact in their life to make decisions that they do, because it fascinates me. And so, in my own selfish way, it gratifies that curiosity. But yeah, in a consulting world, you can I've fallen into this trap before where I had bills to pay and kids to feed. And so I got really aggressive about seeking out what I needed. And it took me a couple stumbles to realize that it's not about what I need. Obviously, I need to feed my kids, but there's always Uber. What's important is figuring out what other people need. And if you have the value, if you have the capacity to get them there, and you can do it reliably and with little stress from them and quickly, then it's okay. Now this is a partnership, and this is something I can provide to you as a service instead of this mindset of you serve me by paying me.
I like that. I think that should be reversed as well sometimes, just on the other side of the end client. I've just noticed in consulting the way that consultants can sometimes be treated because, oh, we're paying you, so therefore you are ours. It's a
We
weird
own you.
dynamic. Yeah, it's basic. Oh no, you signed this contract. I need this done by 9 a.m. tomorrow. Therefore, you have to fulfill that. And that sort of just that I would say also rubbed me the wrong way. Was like certain client management things like that. It's almost geared towards the customer is always mentality of like retail. And I just don't subscribe to that. It's just I think just like relationships are built off mutual trust, so should be partnerships and engagements. It's just like you respect my boundaries, and I think it's okay to place those boundaries
Yeah.
there. I think I see our newer generations coming up, and as they become leaders, I think that's going to come more into play. It's something I definitely want to do is just, no, we are allowed to establish boundaries with those clients and those customers because it's not I don't think it's a recipe for success or a long-term relationship. It's especially to have that sort of power imbalance.
It makes total sense. I have one big client in my firm who is wonderful to work with. And because they're my big client, I want to make sure that they are just so over the moon about what I provide that sometimes I violate my own boundaries, going, yeah, I can also do this thing in addition. I can also do this other thing. I love animation and graphic design. Sure, I'll do this additional thing that will consume another 10 hours of my work week because I just want them to be happy because they are great to work with. They make a big impact and they're also 80% of our annual revenue. Sure. So I really understand that. It goes so many directions, right? It's like it's easy for a big client to take advantage of a consultant in that situation because we want them to be happy. And so they can ask for more and more. Thankfully, my client doesn't do that. But yeah, navigating those boundaries is really hard.
It is. I think at any level of it, I've seen no matter where I was, the sort of scope creep that we call is it's apparent no matter where you are. And from the consultant side, you want to make sure they're happy. You want to provide the best amount of value for them without it also seeming like you're nickeling and diming. At a certain point, your time is valuable as well. And certain things are needed to push back on or to get an amendment or anything like that to make sure that level of power is still somewhat similar and somewhat even.
Yeah. How would you define scope creep in industry?
In industry. So just look at it from my perspective in my current role is we still have a contract with our clients. They're allowed to have certain features available to them for our products that we provide. Sometimes there's these one-off requests that are a little more nuanced and ad hoc that we have to fulfill. And in that sense, I see it as scope creep for industry. It's anything outside of the normal contract that you end up doing just to please or placate or just continue the value of the relationship. I think you can consider scope creep, and what's the line between when you say no versus when you keep going because you've always done that in the past. It's very blurred and it's very tough to do.
Interesting, because I didn't know what scope creep was when I was in academia, but I definitely experienced it. And someone defined what scope creep was. I was like, oh yeah, that's that paper that took 3 years to publish. That makes a lot of sense.
Oh, it's a good point. Think about my friends and their dissertations and how many times they have to go back and change something. That's essentially, I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it until you were just talking about it. Like, oh, I didn't know what scope creep was, so I thought if we defined it, it would be helpful. My last guest on the podcast was Dr. Juana Mendenhall of Morehouse College. And she's a chemistry researcher who focuses on 3D materials and hydrogels. And her question was, how can we realize the magnitude of the impact we have on future generations? And what are future generations teaching you?
That's a huge question.
It is.
So that's an amazing question. So how can I realize the impact that I have on future generations? I think about that, and I always tell myself I want to get like with the ACS kids thing. Like I want to be more involved in bringing along those younger generations, especially younger generations of Black and Brown individuals that look like me, to show them there's options for you to work within science. It's not just what you may see on the television. Yes, the doctors of the world, we want to have to be within that as well, but there's also so many more opportunities that I never knew about that were in the science industry. And I think it's important to show them what's available to them and show them that there's a big network and a lot of different types of jobs that you can do within the STEM field. And then in terms of what is there, so what was the second one? It was, what are the
What are
young
they teaching you?
teaching me?
Yeah.
Um, hmm, I don't interact that much. So it's sort of through one-off conversations I think I have with some younger people. I think back to my high school. There's a gentleman that started a biotechnology class, and he will reach out every once in a while or have one of his students reach out to me. And I think they're just teaching me that a little more guidance is always necessary to show them what's possible. And I think it's sort of to what I was saying a little bit before is they're showing me or teaching me that they're interested in these sorts of things and they just want support in navigating that.
That makes sense. That's like the support that you were looking at from the one firm to the other, where one was working you and the other one was growing you. And there's a difference between the two.
Well,
And then now it's your turn. What's one challenge you'd like to ask our guests about making your work relevant outside of industry?
I would task the next guest to think about inclusion, think about making sure that something's accessible to all individuals. And that's not just accessible to someone of a different race. That's someone with a disability. That's someone of a different gender. That's someone with a different belief system than you. Like a challenge to make sure that we're making sure that we're providing and including those that may think differently than us.
I love that.
Yeah.
Did you want to plug Komodo at all or anything that you
Sure.
believe in?
Yeah. I'll plug Komodo. I've been here for 2.5 months, but I've already noticed that the team dynamics are it's an amazing company to work for. If you're looking for any data science when it comes to healthcare claims data, we really do provide some market technology for our clients. I'm usually suspect when claims like that are made, but the more that I see in terms of our capabilities versus our competitors, it's truly amazing where we're going and what we already provide. So if that's of interest to anyone, definitely let us know. Overall, what am I going to plug? We're only in May, but I'm going to say it early. Get your mammograms, breast cancer, or even before Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I think that's a huge thing that I'm pushing in terms of overall health. Make sure you're getting screened for cancer because you want to catch these things early so that you have the best possible chance for yourself and your family, making sure that you're getting the best treatments and procedures.
I love that. For Komodo, I can't help but pull on experience working. I was doing pharmaceuticals for a while and got connected with this company that provided a service that helped people who had neurological conditions get their medications for multiple sclerosis and other diseases quickly. But I lost a lot of heart in the company because I would get calls from my clients saying, really, it's not that quick. And really, it's not that much cost savings.
Right.
And it made me leave the company because I don't want to go and promise things that can't be backed. So it sounds like Komodo can back it. And do you have a de-identified kind of case study example or a short experience that gave you confidence in them?
Cool. It was interesting. We heard a story from one of our marketing leaders. I started literally day one was a revenue kickoff event. So meeting everyone in person for the first time at a conference. And one of our marketing leads actually told a story about her father being diagnosed. But through the work that we're able to provide through our data sets, being able to study patient journeys and processes, just even patient demographics, I think they were able to utilize certain cohorts and work with their oncology team to make sure that he had the best possible medications and things like that. Shared with us that he was cancer free, cleared of all of his cancer diagnosis pretty recently. And that was just a beautiful thing to hear. Me personally, I, with my mother having breast cancer and saw the cracks in the system, I'll say, I think is the nicest way that I could put it, that happened there. So that's definitely one of my goals in the future, to make sure that continues to be more accessible to people, even to the point of getting a mammogram during Breast Cancer Awareness Month was very hard. And you would think that you would have that system in place. So for those reasons, I love where things are heading. I love that we have a story like that at Komodo. It's a beautiful thing. And I think we're only going to continue to get better when it comes to cancer research and cancer therapies and making sure that more people are living longer.
Wow. Can patients sign up for Komodo, or is it B2B?
It's B2B. It's very, and obviously everything is so de-identified. We have a whole process around that to make sure we're in compliance with HIPAA and all those sorts of things. But it's truly amazing how many covered lives that we're able to get to, and even for rare diseases, so that one, either a company that's trying to develop a drug or other companies that are just looking at the broader scope of how health economics are going about certain treatments and trying to make changes there. There's a lot of different lanes of how the B2B process is working within the B2B process.
That's incredible. Thank you so much, Ricky.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.